you the kind of person that would love to be able to travel and earn at the same time? And on top of that, are you the kind of person that just hates their 9-to-5 job where you have to be at the office from Monday to Friday? Well, Amazon FBA will allow you to earn while you sleep, and you can be anywhere in the world and be earning money. And that's exactly what I did when I was in a corporate job. I really hated my job at the time and I love traveling. And so I started looking online for business ideas and I came across Amazon FBA. And now I have a 6-figure company using Amazon. Well, my name's Michael J. I build 6-figure businesses, I built 7-figure businesses, and it is my passion and my calling in life to teach as many people in the world to do the same. So you can leave that shitty job behind and that nasty boss that you can't stand. And in this video, I'm gonna show you how you can build your very own Amazon FBA business from scratch. So before I do that, I'm going to go through exactly what Amazon FBA is and talk about the benefits of using that service. So basically, Amazon FBA is an online platform that allows any sellers in the world to use their platform to sell physical products. And what FBA stands for is Fulfillment by Amazon. So that basically means that they're going to take care of all of the customer service for you, but you're going to have to be responsible for sending your products into Amazon. And then once that stock is in Amazon, they place it on their platform when you create a listing. And when people buy one of your products, Amazon will ship it for them. They will deal with complaints, they will deal with returns, and all you need to do is create the listing, send your products into Amazon, and Amazon will deal with all of the other logistics surrounding customers and them buying your products. There is another option out there using Amazon services, which is called FBM, which is Fulfilled by Merchant. Now, it's fairly similar in terms of using Amazon's platform. So you still will need to create a listing and you'll be using amazon.com or .co.uk to sell your product. But Fulfilled by Merchant means you're dealing with all of the fulfillment. So you will be required for shipping the products to the customers. You'll be required to deal with customer complaints, customer returns, and you will need to store stock somewhere and you will need to manage that stock. So if you're the kind of person that wants to be free from all that, FBA is a perfect option. But if you don't mind that, then obviously you can use FBM. So you can see the huge benefits of Amazon FBA, because if you don't need to physically store products or ship products out to a customer, you have basically got rid of 70-80% of the workload there. And all you need to do is the work up front to find the good products, to ship the products from China, get them into stock and create a listing. Everything else is arranged and the responsibility is on Amazon. So it's a really, really amazing option if you don't like being tied to a particular location and you want to travel and you want to earn at the same time. Now, before I go into the step-by-step process on how you can get your first product up and running and live in Amazon, I want to talk through some really important things that you need to take into consideration and keep in mind before you start this whole process. Firstly, this is not a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? Now, if you've seen courses or any influencers out there suggesting that, then they are lying and they're just trying to make money from you, because you cannot make money quickly in Amazon. That's as simple as that, and I want to be fully open and transparent about that. But on the flip side of that, that means this is a long-term solid business model. It's not a get rich quick scheme, which 99 times out of 100 never work. This is that solid but a little bit boring, more longer term but solid business model where you can make decent, consistent, passive income through. And I want to get one thing really clear. This is not one of those sexy business models where you're getting a brand up and running, you want to get a really cool, out there type of brand and it's really going to catch the audience's attention, and this is not that. The way I learned this is by getting boring, under the radar products that people are going to buy, that need to buy over long periods of time. These are not flash in the pan, sexy kind of products that we're going to be looking for. So again, if you're wanting something really sexy and cool and vibrant, this is not the business model for you, but that is going to be potentially your road to failure. This is going to be your road to success because it's a solid, long-standing, slightly boring business model that's going to make you money for years to come. Something else that I really want to keep in mind is the amount of funding that you're going to need to get up and running and the management of cash flow. So you can get this business up and running for around £5,000, because I'm talking to my UK people, right? And with that money, you can probably get up and running 2 products live into Amazon, because it costs around $2,500 to get a product in test to see how it's gonna sell, because that's how we do things with this particular business model. You don't want to spend 10-15 grand on a product not knowing whether it's gonna sell or not. We're always gonna get an experimental or test order, 200-300 pieces, which might cost you $2,000 to $2,500 to get in there to test out whether it's going to be worth getting larger orders. To build on that, a lot of my business coaching clients that I work with don't take into consideration the more longer term strategy when it comes to products and funding for these products. So obviously I mentioned before that it costs around $2,500 to get a product up and running and live into Amazon. But once that product lands, okay, we're going to need to reorder that product at some point. And what we don't want to be doing is waiting until that product's sold out to reinvest back into that product again, because if we prove that it can sell, we need to get that product back in stock immediately. So you're going to need extra funding to do that, and you're not going to be seeing a full return from that initial money that you put in. So it's not only just the initial $2,500 for the test order, you're going to need potentially double the amount for a larger order before you're going to be seeing much return from your initial order. So it could potentially be an extra $5,000 on top of the initial $2,500. Now, don't get me wrong, that's not all going to come out of your bank account at the same time, right? From when you first start the process, you might be placing a 30% deposit with the supplier, and then a month later, once it's finished, you're going to be paying the remaining 70% off. And then it takes around 2 to 3 months to get into stock if you're shipping by sea. So you've got another 2 to 3 months there to save a little bit more. And then once it's live into Amazon, you need to let it sell for around 2 to 4 weeks to see if there's any traction and just to see the run rate of that particular product. And then you're going to order it. And then again, if it is a $5,000 order, you're only going to be placing 30% initially. So that might only be what, $1,500. And then another month or so later, you're going to be paying the remaining $4,500. So it is spread out, but something that I just need to make you aware of and make sure that your expectations are set realistically for this, because this is the same as any business. Just because it's online, it doesn't mean you can create 100K from 5K. You're going to need a good 15 to 20K-ish if you want to get to that, let's say 5K a month profit, just like any business. If we take a coffee shop, for example, for you to be earning 2.5 to 5K a month, you're probably going to be spending around 50 to 60K, and that's going to be probably all up front to get the shop, to get all your stock, etc. And so this business is no different. And just as a final point before we get into the nitty-gritty step by step, we're going to go forward initially with slightly lower priced items and slightly smaller and lighter items. And the reason for that is just because it's easy logistically, it's less risk because it's going to cost us less, and it's just easier for shipping, more simple, and the logistics are just much easier. And you can make decent amounts of money from, let's say, a $20 to a $30 kind of product, or 20 to 30 quid type of product, and you can make a nice, let's say, 7 to 10 pounds or dollars per sale. And we're going to aim for around 5 sales per day globally. And so you can make anywhere between $30 to $50 or quid per day, which is around anywhere between $1,000 to $1,500 per month. And then what we want to do on top of that is keep stacking those small wins on top of each other. So you can be earning anywhere between 5 and 10K from 5 to 10 products. Now, I am going to go more into depth with all of these things to take in consideration and the more strategic element of Amazon FBA, but that were my summary, and now we're going to get straight into the step-by-step on how to get your first product live. Okay guys, let's get straight into it. So what you can see here is Amazon.com, and is where every beginner must start, but it's where all of us pros start as well. So you need to get used to this. You're going to be coming on this a lot, and I'm going to show you the basic navigations on how to use this, but more specifically around researching products. Before I do that, what we're going to cover in this video today are 3 main phases of this entire business model. So we're not going to have time to cover every single minute detail of how to get your product into Amazon, but anything following ordering a sample, I'm going to cover in different videos. But in this video, I'm going to cover the 3 main phases to get a product actually live into Amazon. And that covers 80% of the work that you're ever going to need to do. The remaining 20%, as I mentioned before, I'm going to cover in a different video. So those 3 main phases are research, analyzing a market, and sourcing products from China. So let's get straight into it. And I'm now going to show you how to research. So where we're going to start is in this top corner here, and we're going to click on the tab All. And what Amazon call a department, if we scroll down here, we're going to call categories. And this is the highest level of category that you're ever going to see in Amazon catalog. So let's call this a main category. So what we want to do to find what we call hidden gem style products, because this is the business model that I'm going to teach you. We're not going to be teaching what all of the supposed gurus out there are going to teach you, which is very flash in the pan, very competitive, the type of products that are going to cost you hundreds, if not thousands in advertising money to get them seen. That's not what we want. We want under the radar, boring, hidden gem style products that customers are going to need rather than want for years to come. So to start that process, let's pick a main category. So randomly, I'm going to pick pet supplies. And then this has taken us down into a subcategory. Okay, so this is how we're going to dig deep for those hidden gem products. And then anything we click in here is going to take us to the subcategory, and it goes down like that. And the lower down we go, the more hidden gem the products are going to be. So again, randomly, I'm going to choose fish and aquatics. And then we're going to choose just one more to get to the subcategory. And randomly, I'm going to choose aquarium stands. So this is where we're going to stop for now, and is where we're going to start our researching. And before I do that, I'm just going to cover the type of things that we want to be opening and the things that we don't want to be opening. So the kind of things that we don't want to be opening are anything that's sharp or dangerous for obvious reasons, anything that needs power to make it work. So that's whether that's batteries or plugging into electric, again, for the obvious reasons, a lot of risk around these, custom complaints, returns, etc. We're not going to be picking it on this occasion too large and bulky and expensive items, because if we're beginners, that's not the kind of products we want to be going for, again, to manage risk. And we're not going to be picking really cheap items either. We don't want anything under, let's say, $15, okay? The things that we do want to be opening are boring products like this. This is a perfect looking item. Also, anything that just looks a little bit different. We don't want to be picking things that are obvious, like a lamp, for example, a bedside table, a water bottle, a yoga mat. All those are just way too obvious, and they're going to be those flash in the pan, or not even necessarily flash in the pan, but they're going to be very competitive, and that's not where we want to be. Okay, everything else we are opening. So to start the research process, whenever we find a product like this that passes our criteria, we're just going to right click and we're going to open it in a new tab. And what we want to be doing here is building a list of products up here. We call them seed products. Look at this as almost a family tree. We want to be building the top layer up here, and then later on in the process, we're going to be digging into here and we're going to be finding more products, which will then give us the next layer of the family tree and so on. So let's continue finding more boring, under the radar kind of products. We're not going to be opening fish tanks because they're just too obvious again. This looks some kind of cupboard, which again, too obvious. These are not hidden gem style products. These are a little bit different. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to open this one just because that's a little bit different. And then we're going down a bit further. These are a little bit too obvious again with the cabinets for the fish tank. This potentially could be one, but furniture in general that's a bit too obvious just for storage or something is not the kind of product I would be opening, but let's try that anyway. And then that is basically it for this one. So then the next thing we would do is come into here and dig even further. So how we do that is we scroll down here and we come to 4 stars and above, and customers also search. And you can see here, we've got 34 pages and we've got some more down here. And we would literally open up anything that fits in our criteria. So that's a tank, so no. Something like this is a little bit decorative, which is not the best thing to be opening, but let's open it anyway, because again, sometimes it's not all about the kind of product. If it's a little bit different and unique and not obvious, it might give us a little segue, let's call it a segue, into other unique products. Okay, cool. So all these are kind of plug-in. That's a fish tank. This could be a potential, some kind of tubing to clean the fish tank. Perfect. Open that one. And then we would just literally keep clicking on while we are finding more hidden gem style products. So I'm going to stop there with that. I just wanted to show you the very basics in this video, not kind of go on forever, because if we did, we'll be here for hours. But in a typical research session, you should be doing this for around 2 hours. And at the end of that session, you should have around 50 to 100 tabs open up here. And then what we would do at the end of that session, we would stop and then we would move on to the next phase, which is analyzing the markets, and is what we were going to cover next. Okay, guys, moving on to the next phase. The next phase is analyzing the markets. So we've done our research session, which, as I mentioned before, should be around 2 hours for each session. And then you want to move on to analyzing all the markets. And again, anywhere between an hour and 2 hours, although I wouldn't suggest doing a 4-hour session in one go. What you want to be getting to is an hour for researching and an hour for analyzing the markets. But for right now, if you just stick to 2 hours researching and then maybe 1 hour analyzing the markets, and try and do that approximately 5 days a week. So 15 hours really as a bare minimum to get this up and running. And it's going to take you probably at least 2 months to find a good handful of decent products. Okay, so let's get moving. So to analyze the market, what we first need is the keyword that we believe our customers are going to be searching. So for this one, I think it's pretty simple. It's reptile lampstand. Now, what a lot of people do here is they will overdo it and manipulate the keyword just so that it brings up their particular listing. For example, someone might use black metal reptile lampstand adjustable. And obviously, if yours is black, if it's adjustable, and if it's reptile lampstand, yours is going to show up, and maybe 2 or 3 others, but that's not realistic, okay? We want the most generic version of the keyword. And here it's reptile lampstand. So we're going to search here, and we always need to make sure that this is on all. We don't want it to be on the specific category. Okay, we want to be making sure that it's as generic and basic as possible, like it will be for our customers. Then we hit search. And this is now our market. Okay, and this is what we're going to analyze. So there's 4 main things I want you to keep in mind when it comes to analyzing market. The first is the search results. Anything under 1,000 is good. Anything under 500 is great. Anything under 250 is amazing. You can get good markets around the 2,000 results mark as well. But anything above that, really, you want to be questioning it. The second thing we want to be looking at is the size of a market or the competitiveness of the market. Okay. So the way we determine that is by analyzing as accurately as we can with the tools that we've got, how many sales each seller is making. Now, we are going to use limits in this to help us focus our analysis on. And what you can see here is what you're probably not going to be able to see if you've got your own computer up and follow me step by step here, is these things which are called the BSR numbers, which is the best seller rank. And an app that's an absolute game changer in this is called Amazon DS Quick View, which is a Chrome extension. So I want you to download that and I want you to add it to Chrome. We need to be in Chrome here because a lot of the apps that I'm going to be talking about is in Chrome. So get that, download it, add it, and then come back and you should be seeing these also. You've also got other bits of information such as the ASIN, who sells it, how many FBA sellers are on this particular listing. You also can see here price history and keep history. So I've got another app that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit, but that's called Keeper, Keepa. So you're also going to be wanting a copy of that. Now, the paid version is really what you're going to need here for Keeper, but I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. The free version is just not going to cut it. But just to go back to our analysis of the size of the market. So a limit that I want you to keep in mind in the main categories here, which also is what DS Quick View shows, is 50,000 for a BSR. That is a limit for a BSR, okay? And the reason for that is because based on my knowledge and experience working in this, you can work out the amount of sales that are being done in a main category. There's some main categories in the Amazon catalog that I would not class as a main category because it doesn't yield as much as a typical main category. I'm going to go through all of that in a different video, but not this, okay? But just for now, pet supplies is a main category, okay? So we're going to use 50,000 to determine the size of this market, okay? So anything above 50,000, we're going to almost ignore and not count that in our analysis. Okay, so let's do that. So we've got 10,000, 7,000, 44,000, and this is kind of the same thing, but it's a double version. So I would probably not include that in my count, okay? It does serve a different purpose, and you're going to get a certain client base that are going to be ordering that, and you're going to have a certain client base that are going to be ordering that. So let's just count these single ones for now. So 10,000, 7,000, 44,000. So we've got 3 in that 50,000 BSR range. We're going to ignore the highly rated. Then we've got another one. So that's 4 in the BSR range, 22,000. That's a double. That's a double. That's just out. 37,000, that's 5. 40,000, that's 6. 34,000, 7. That's 8. Out of range. Just in again, that's 9. Out of range, that's a different product. Another one, 10. Out of range, out of range, out of range, all out. That's different. All of these are out now. Just out, all of these are out. Okay, and these are sponsored, okay? So something else for you to keep in mind, you're going to ignore the sponsored going forward, because what Amazon do when they create a advertising campaign for you, when you create that inside your Seller Central, they essentially create a new listing. They duplicate your organic listing. So you're probably going to see these on this page also. Okay, so that's why we don't really include the sponsored. Okay, just coming back down here. Okay, so we're all out of range here. These are different products, so not the same thing. Out of range, different products, different products. different products apart from this, that's out of range. And that is it. Okay, so just to recall and summarize that. So there's around 10 sellers that are in the 50,000 BSR range. Okay, now the sweet spot for this is you want anywhere between 3 to 7 sellers in range. Okay, but what we don't want is all of those sellers to be in the top 10,000, which means basically that there's going to be way too many sales being made in this market. And the reason for that is just to describe BSRs a little bit further. So if you're number 1 BSR in this category in the US, you are the best seller in this category in the entire country, okay? Which means you are doing a lot of sales. So if all of these top 4, well, top 3, because that is not the same product, right? If that were 1,000, if that were 500, and that was 2,000, we know that there's a lot of sales being made just with these 3 products. So then if we would to add the 22,000 as well, and then any others that are in range 37,000, 40, 34, etc., then it would be too big and too competitive. However, because this particular market only has 2 low BSRs, what I would class low BSRs, under 10,000, we know that this is not a huge market. I would actually class this as probably a medium to large market, okay, or medium to large-ish market, because we've only got 2 under 10,000. The rest of them are from 25,000 upwards. So that one's very high, 20,000 high, 37,000 high. These are what I would call pretty high. I mean, that's medium, but anything 30,000 above is pretty high, okay? And you're not doing loads of sales there, okay? So I would class this the medium to large-ish market. So based on this alone, this would not fail. So it's not failed on the results, and it's not failed on the size of a market. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the cloniness of a market. And what a cloniness of a market is, in a nutshell, is seeing the same thing sold over and over again on this first page, what we call the market. And when we're talking about cloniness, whenever we get into double figures, and especially close to like mid-teens, like 15, 16, you really want to be double guessing this market. And it's probably going to be more of a no than a yes. But let's count them up on here. So these 3, pretty much the same thing. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's not the same thing, so it's double. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay, 20. Okay, so we're now at 20. So for me, this market would be very clony. In fact, for me, this would be too clony, and I wouldn't move forward with this single piece. Just based on that information, this is too clony for me. This single piece, the market is medium to large-ish. The results are okay, but because there's that many in terms of clones, it's going to be very difficult to stand out in this market. So that, for me alone, I would not move forward with this product. However, this is a bit of an advanced strategy that I'm throwing in here as a little bit of a gem. There is a thing called a market within a market. And this double reptile lampstand or jewel lampstand would be classed as a market within the reptile lampstand market in general, because it is a unique product, okay? So then I would then move on to that and check out this. So there's one of those at 15,000, okay, that's a nice BSR. 2 at, okay, so 14,000, so that's 2 in range, that's out of range. None of these. That's out of range. That's just out of range. That's just out of range again. Okay, that's sponsored. Okay, so we've got 2 in range basically. So that is actually a very nice sweet spot. So we've got 2 sellers that are around 15,000. Now, it's very difficult to tell how many sales are being made just by looking at the BSR range, unless you've been doing this a while. And I can honestly tell you that if you're at around 15,000 in a main category in the US, and pet supplies is a main category, you're probably doing around 20 sales per day, maybe 25 sales per day. Okay, so we know with the 2 sellers around that, there's been around 50 sales a day made. And with the others that are just outside of range, around the 60,000, there might be 70 to 80 sales being made in this market. So that for me is a really nice sweet spot for us to come in. There's not loads of sales being made, which makes it really competitive. There's not too little, which makes it just not even worth bothering with. That's a really nice sweet spot where we can come in and we can nick, let's say, 5 to 10 sales a day and make a really nice daily profit here. So before we're going to move forward with this, let's just finish market analysis in general. And the 4th and final point that you're going to look at is the confusion of a market. Okay, so the confusion of the market can include things like the size of a product, the price of a product, the material of a product, the functionality of a product, and the color to a certain extent of a product. If you've got a market with loads of sizes, colors, functionality, materials, and the prices are just all over the place, then that is what we call a confused market. And that is not what we want. We want as clean a market as possible. And what I did notice about this market in general, not just for this or this, just the market in general, is that there doesn't seem to be too much confusion. If you look from the top, if you ignore the sponsored, pricing is the only thing that I would say is confusing in this market, and potentially the size. And I think if we dug into here, we'll probably find that this is probably a larger version than this, and why there's a pricing difference. Okay, but we can tell there's 3 different pricing points. There's like a $20-ish pricing point. There's a $25 pricing point. And there is, for the double one, like a $40, $45 pricing point, which we can expect it for these because they're doubles, although we need to look into this a little bit more because that's a double and that's a double, and they're both quite different in pricing. But I'm guessing it's something to do with the quality of it. This looks a little bit flimsier. This just looks like a higher end, slightly more solid version, but we'd have to look into that. But for these singles, they're around $20 to $25, as you can see. But then your doubles, you start getting up to, your $40s to $50. Okay, so that is the only thing that I can see. The pricing and potentially the sizing are the only things that are really causing confusion here. Everything else is pretty basic, and I would not class this as a confused market. This is a pretty clean market, actually. So that is pretty much it for the analysis part. So in terms of moving forward, it wouldn't be this product for me. It would be this, and that is what we're going to use to move forward and find and source products from China using Alibaba. Just one more thing before we shoot into sourcing products. I wanted to cover the little gem that I mentioned earlier, which was Keepa. That's Keepa, which is another Chrome extension. And this is an absolute game changer. So what you can see here is I've just clicked into one of the products that we found of the dual lampstand. And you scroll down here once you've got the paid version of Keepa, and you can see this graph here, this really nice visual graph. And down the side, you've got the BSRs that were mentioned, and this green squiggle tells us the history of a BSR over time. This line here is the price. So you can see it stayed steady for the past 6 months or so. But then it also tells us how long it's been selling, and we can break that down by year or all. So if that's been selling for 10 years, we'll be able to see 10 years worth of data. And we can see here that it's had a really nice, steady BSR. So it's been selling well over a long period of time. And that is what is the absolute game changer for this, because BSRs will change every hour. And some days sales might just not be going well. So you might see a market of 3 sellers, for example, and they might be on a 60, 70,000 BSR, which is not very good in terms of sales, right? Then another day, you might see them all at 25, 30,000, which is a total change of analysis there. So coming into some of the products and checking their history using Keeper will provide a definitive answer on the history of the BSR and the history of the pricing point. So it's absolute game changer, as you can see. And it's a really nice visual that you can see over time how a product performed and the longevity of that particular product and the pricing point as well. You don't want to see a product that's been charging $45 and $20 and $30. This has stayed there or thereabouts around $20-ish. It's been messing around a little bit here for some reason, but this is a $19.99 product. And then you know what pricing point you should be selling yours at if this is the main competitor that we are going up against. Okay, so now let's shoot over to Alibaba and look at how to source this. Okay, so now what you can see in front of your screen is Alibaba.com. So we've moved from Amazon.com to Alibaba.com. And this is also a platform that you are going to spend a lot of time on. And what Alibaba is in a nutshell is it's a catalog of Chinese suppliers mainly. There are suppliers from other countries like India, for example, but it's mainly Chinese suppliers that sell physical products. And that's exactly what we are searching for. So what I'm going to do here is come up here and search using the main keyword initially that we found on Amazon.com, and it was a reptile lamp stand. And then it's going to take us over to the catalog list of suppliers that sell that particular product. And as you can see here already, it's exactly the same as the one that we were looking at before. And that's a double one. So what we would do here is just click on that and it's going to open up another tab for us. Okay. Then we're going to come back to here and we want to be contacting 2 to 3 suppliers for each product, if that's possible. Sometimes, just to let you know, if you're a total beginner in this, you're not going to find suppliers at all on this, especially for very niche products, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. Obviously a bad thing because it's a nightmare to find and it's more of an advanced strategy to deal with suppliers that have never done that product before. But it's also a good thing because, you know, it's niche and not a lot of people selling it, and it will put a lot of beginners off actually. So let's just scroll down a little bit more. These are the single ones. And in all honesty, these single guys are probably going to do the double one as well, but let's ignore those for now. Let's see if we can find another supplier where it actually says dual. And oh, here we go. Perfect. So we're going to open that as well. Great. And something that I've just noticed that I forgot to mention, when we're looking for suppliers on Alibaba, we want to make sure that they're one of 2 things. You can see here, it says verified. We want a supplier wherever possible to be verified. We also want a supplier to be trade assurance. I'm going to just describe that in a minute, but let's just go back here. Let's go back up. And there's 2 tabs where you can tick verified. And you can also tick trade assurance. So just to explain those briefly, trade assurance is where you can pay for your goods on Alibaba and they will be backed up financially by Alibaba themselves. So that is an assured trade that's covered by Alibaba. So that is really, really important, especially if it's the first time you're dealing with a supplier. Verified basically means that's just another level of assurance, which is Alibaba going to the actual Chinese supplier or in any country supplier's warehouse to make sure they're a legitimate enterprise, which is again an absolute game changer. Now you can come down here and click on less than 1 hour response time, but I don't tend to do that. Some take more than that and it's fine, 6 hours, 12 hours, which is totally cool with me. So again, we found that supplier that we already found before. And it's pretty much the same, to be honest. I would say 80% of the suppliers on here will be trade assurance. Then probably 50, 60% will be verified. You can see here that most of these on here are verified, 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 verified. And because we've put the filter on up here for trade assurance, we know that all of these are covered by trade assurance. And it is in the supplier's best interest to be both of those things. Because I'm imagining 90% of the people coming on here, especially people that know what they're doing, will tick both of those things. Now, if I'm really struggling, the thing that I will get rid of is verified. As long as I can pay through trade assurance, and there's other things that I'm going to be doing through production as extra assurance or quality checks are getting photos and videos of my completed production line with imagery of my products in boxes, etc. But for now, let's just say we'll tick both of those. And let's come over here into the individual suppliers. Now, this is the supplier shop. Now, you can click on here, which takes you further in depth into that particular supplier's catalog. So you can see here products. They've got a lot of different products that are very closely related. Snake equipment, heating equipment, terrarium, landscape decoration, breeding tools, all very similar. So anything in this arena, you're going to be able to find through this supplier. Let's just close that and come back to this. So the way you want to open communication with the supplier, once you've created an account and obviously signed in, you'll be able to come over here and you want to click this contact supplier button. And then you can see here that you're going to have to sign in it. But once you've signed in, this will be a box, basically a message box where you can send a message and you can actually attach things as well. And that's what you want to do. You want to have a template, a very short and sharp template that's to the point, but that includes all the information that you need. And you just want to copy and paste that to each of these suppliers. So let's just close this one and this one. And just to go over a few things for you to include in your communication to these suppliers. So the things that we need as part of this to help us calculate our profits, which this is what this exercise is all about. We need the FOB, which is the free on board price, because we're going to be using a freight forwarder to ship our products from China to our country of destination. But the supplier is responsible for not only producing the product as part of FOB terms, they are responsible for getting that product to the docks in China. And that's where we're going to take over. But we need the FOB terms from the supplier. Then what we're going to need is what we call an MOQ, which is a minimum order quantity, which is usually around 1,000 pieces, but it can be a little bit lower with bigger, bulky, more expensive items. But we do want a long-term, cost-effective MOQ price. And we also want a trial order price, which is around 300 pieces. And the reason why we need that is because there's no point putting tens of thousands into a product when we've not tested it yet. We want to reduce the risk as much as possible. And by getting a test order of say 300 pieces, 200 pieces, 400 pieces, whatever it is, and we're not putting all our money into one basket. And we also want the dimensions of a packaged product. So we don't want the dimensions of this built up, because I'm imagining that will go lower and maybe these will come off and bend down. We want the packaging size of the product in centimeters. We want the length, the width, the height. And we also want the weight of one packaged product as well. That will allow us to calculate our profits, because The size of a product and the weight of a product is going to allow us to determine how much it's going to cost us using sea freight or air freight or whichever freight you want to use. For now, I'm going to go over the sea freight element because that is what you need to use going forward in terms of your long-term strategy, because it's 100% the cheapest and most cost-effective option. However, it is the long-term option because it takes 3 months approximately to get from China to your country of destination. Air freighting takes a fraction of the time. It takes approximately 3 to 4 weeks. So you can quickly see why air freight can be good. But because air freight uses more volumetric weight as opposed to just volume, if you've got a big and heavy item like this is, this would not be worth moving forward with if you're going to use air freight. You probably lose money if you air freighted this product. Any products that are light and compact, you can definitely send by air. But in general, we're going to be using sea freight. And that is why we want FOB terms from suppliers, because FOB means, again, that the supplier is going to get it to the dock, which is the sea dock in China, and then it's going to go onto one of our ships to our country of destination. Another thing to keep in mind that you might want to get on top of that is the HS code, which is basically a duty code. And we're going to need to pay duties in whatever country we're going to deliver to. And that code, there's websites online that we can check those codes out and we can determine the percentage of a duty for our particular product, and it will give us a cost for that. Again, all this exercise is about confirming how much it's going to cost us and how much profit we can make. So that is basically how we source products from China. Now, don't get me wrong, there are many other steps to take in between that and following that to get our products into Amazon, obviously. But I'm not going to cover everything on this call because we would literally be here for hours. But these 3 main phases, which are, again, research, analyzing the market, and sourcing products, that is basically 80% of the work that you need to get used to and get experience in to get a product into Amazon. The rest of it, I'm going to cover it in other videos. But for right now, these are the fundamental 3 main phases that you need. So I really hope you took a lot of value from this video. It took me 4 years to gain all this experience and to become good with the Amazon FBA, and you've got it all in a 20-30 minute video. And if you feel you want to go more in depth with this and have a course and a coach to help you walk through step by step so you can ask them any questions, and if you want to work with me on a more of a one-to-one basis, I've included a link below in the description which is going to take you to a course which I personally took and is what I'm teaching in this video today. And I am now a coach for that company. So if you want to work with me on a more of a one-to-one basis and get more of an in-depth look in this business model, then check that description, click on the link below and check it out for yourself. So that's it from me today, guys. If you took a lot of value from this, which I'm hoping you did, please like the video, make sure to subscribe, and until next time,